Yo, what's up, people of the corn? Checking my hair. How's it look? Okay. How's it going, Nick?
Wonderful, Nicole.
How goes it?
It's going great.
How's your Monday?
It's lovely.
So today, I'm Nicole Jones. Only for today, though. And this is Debbie Downs.
Can't say that.
Wah, wah. So today we wanted to talk about, welcome to the Thrive With Us podcast, by the way. I'm getting straight into the point here. Nothing in life that is amazing ever comes easy. That's just not possible. It doesn't exist. There's always something under or behind the scenes. Whenever you see someone going through something amazing, it's always because it's the hardship that happened behind the scenes that led up to that amazing moment. Nothing good in life comes easy. And what are you willing to sacrifice along the way?
Are you narrating a story about it? This will be the movie of the century.
Okay, listen, buddy. Buddy's upset. Buddy needs an ice cream
Just
cone.
to give a background, we did a 40-minute
needs-
podcast. At the very end, Nicole decided to get mad at me because I admittedly used my phone. We did a whole podcast about how business is hard to let go of. Guess what happened while we were doing the podcast? I had to answer
Is your
a
phone on
text.
Do Not Disturb?
No, it's not.
Okay, let's do that and then start the podcast.
Do you think that is because inherently it needs to be hard for it to be satisfying?
It's science.
You're a scientist now.
It is science.
Whoa, I didn't know.
Name one thing that has ever happened that's amazing that has ever come easy.
Donuts are pretty amazing, and they are easy to procure.
No, that is not easy because guess what? It
I'm a
goes
fat
straight to
kid.
your thighs and then you'll explode.
Then you'll explode. SpongeBob reference 101. I know what you mean. My question was simply to ask you. I mean, seriously, do you think... Man, I'm having a hard time thinking deeply, but do you think that something has to be difficult in order to fill a level of fulfillment about it? I personally do. Anytime I agree with your statement. Anytime something has been extremely difficult is when the reward is so good, you know? Like, okay, I'm going to go run a half a marathon. It fucking sucks. It's terrible, right? And I've never actually ran an official one, but I did quietly by myself in the 150-degree heat. And it sucked, but it was so rewarding, you know? And it's like...
But why was it rewarding?
Because
Because it sucked and you did it.
Wait, no. It's deeper than that.
But I think that plays a huge part.
That's just like a weak, like, topical answer. Because it sucks and you did it. I think
that's a part of it.
But why?
Because you didn't think that your body could do something like that.
Why is that satisfying?
And it hurt
to prove your
so
own self
bad.
wrong?
Limited beliefs. We're all been lied to as children.
I'm serious. Why is it so satisfying to prove your own self wrong? And if you can talk to your own self, doesn't that mean there's two selves?
Oh my God.
How deep you want to get? I mean, I'm serious. I get it. Of course. Anytime... You know, if I'm like...
The journey
I'm gonna put this
makes it amazing. The hard journey is what creates the amazingness.
Then why do we avoid the hard journeys?
Because we've
Why
been
do I not-
lied to.
Why do I not want to run today? Why is it everything in me to not go do it if I know that fulfillment's going to happen when I'm done?
It's the parasite.
In your brain. Seriously, it is. The bitch voice.
So can you give me medicine to get rid of the parasite?
It's
'Cause
called
I don't want it
running.
gone.
Running is the medicine.
But I can't run because the parasite's too big.
It's called awareness, Nick.
This is too surface level for me.
Listen, it is not surface level. You're surface
so
level.
was this earlier when we were talking about business profit? And you were like, "Yeah, we just need more profit.
We just need to make more money."
Oh, wow, shit, damn! You should open a coaching company.
No, but that is a piece, though. Like in all seriousness, the hardship plays a huge part. For example, money. Okay, let's talk about money. How many times have you seen someone win the lottery and all of their problems go away, and then they're happily ever after. Never, right? Because they all end up spending the hell out of their money, and they go bankrupt after that, and nothing changes.
So what does that prove? I don't get it.
So,
I mean, I think we all know that.
actually, no. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people always say, like, if I won the lottery, all my problems would go away.
But, well, hold on. Back up. So here's the separation that I think happens. A lot of people, I think if you asked 10 people, how many people that win the lottery keep the money? They're all going to say, I think it's something like 5%. But in their head, they think they're the different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I used to think that too. Mm-hmm.
So, well, that wouldn't happen to me, right? So I think that right there, that little piece of the human brain right there is what causes so much issue. And we talked about it on our last episode that is never going to be aired because Nicole's brat. Anywho, because as humans,
don't make me do it again.
As humans,
I'll flip this table.
As humans, we tend to look at other people's successes or failures and think that we are somehow fundamentally different from them, right? Like why are you smiling at me? You look at like whoever you look up to, Martin Luther King Jr. You look at him and you go, but I couldn't do blank, or I could do blank. We're limiting ourselves all the time, or unlimiting ourselves, depending on what it is. We have all these stories that we tell our brains what we can or can't do. In reality, none of it is true. What is true? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we kind of trailed off a little bit, but back to like nothing amazing in life comes easy. So
why? That was my question that I posed to you. That's why we're here.
Why doesn't amazing things come easy? Why? Is that what your question is?
Why?
Why? Continue.
I'm just asking why.
Why what?
You posed a question. I asked why.
Why nothing amazing in life comes easy? Why don't we get that stuff? Why
does nothing in life that is amazing come easy? I'm trying to pose the question of why you're asking. Why when it's hard is it worth it?
It's nature. For example.
It's nature.
It's nature.
I can't take that. So
it is. And
that's trash. Throw that away.
So, for example. I'm
Bring
done.
up the lion.
Can we start over?
No.
I'm done.
This is literally
done,
like
bro.
the question. It's like, okay, why? If something is hard, I don't disagree with you. I 100% agree. I think that people who are unhappy fundamentally don't do hard things all the time. They put themselves in comfort all the time.
It is nature, Nick. Our bodies are meant to go through
then why
hardship.
do I avoid it?
Because you a bitch.
I'm serious.
Because we do have two selves, dude. It's the human brain. And like, I'm not a scientist, so please do not quote me on any of this. I am only a student of life, of my own life, okay? And with that said, we do have two selves. We have the human brain is a dangerous place. It's a beautiful but danger, just like nature, right? Nature is so beautiful, but it's also, it will kill everybody if it has to.
It's brutal.
It will wipe out species.
I think it's funny because it's like humans, me and Nicole are mostly vegan. It's like, oh, I don't want the animals to die. And you look at nature and shit just starves to death.
But it's not about nature, right? And you sent me a thing the other day about that. Like, this is
that.
nature.
People have
the
a hard time
bear
differentiating
eating the salmon or the lion eating the antelope. But then it's like industry farming is not nature. That right there with all those cows and chickens
it's
and pigs.
unnecessary.
Yeah. So
very few times in nature does something unnecessarily kill something
I'm
else.
all for people hunting their own food. I love it. We have a technician that does that with his daughter. They'll eat deer, bear, whatever.
We're trailed off now,
I love that. But
agree
I
with you.
could not do it because I'm a bitch. So anyway,
This is fair.
So I truly do think it's nature. The human brain is a very complex situation, and it does have two selves. It has the bitch voice, which Andy Frisella refers to it as the bitch voice, and then it has its innate needs. And one of them is it needs to be challenged. It needs to be challenged mentally. It needs to be challenged physically.
Why is it such a pandemic for people to look for the easiest thing then? Why are people constantly ordering DoorDash to get fast food to their house so they could sit on their couch and watch Netflix while they scarf down McDonald's? Why are people obsessed with the most comfortable vehicle that has heated seats and, the best radio? Why are we obsessed with, how long we can spend asleep? Like, there's so many different things people do to ensure their own comfort. Some people literally that's all they think about, right? So let me hold on, because I'm posing this question because I think it's an interesting conversation, because myself, I do know that I've been the happiest when I'm doing the hardest things, right? But I avoid it. I avoid it like the plague. There's some people that don't, but 90% of people, they avoid working out.
You know what I think that is? I think it's a misunderstanding of how we operate. I think that the more understanding we have of how our brain works, the less that happens. I think that voice will always exist within us, the voice that tells us to stay on the couch.
Agree.
I think that's a part of how the human brain is made, and I don't know the science behind it, but just speaking from my own personal brain's experience, I think a lot of it does have to do with societal conditioning and conditioning from those around us that we've seen. But again, it all comes back down to how the brain is created, and I'm sure Andrew Huberman has an amazing podcast about that. But I will say that the more understanding you have of how our brain works and what voice to listen to and what voice not to listen to, because there are two voices. Everybody has two voices.
The conscious and subconscious self, the inner and the outer self.
It's literally the devil and the...
I don't know if you're trying to avoid that question, but I only ask it because...
I answered the question.
I
said
take
it's
that
innate.
answer.
It's literally it's.
I can't fundamentally just take that answer. It's nature. Oh, okay, done. I'm really interested in like you said, it's societal conditioning. Okay, so if you were to take away, if you were to have a child in a fucking field, right? This is getting weird, but I like it.
Yeah.
But let's say you did.
Hit me.
Right? Mm-hmm. I'm
in a field and I have a child. Then what happens?
It's a fucking meadow. Okay.
What field? Yeah.
We're talking.
Are there animals out there?
We're talking premium climate. You got a dog. No, I'm just kidding. But let's say, for sake of argument, you do that, right? And it has no societal conditioning. Does it just do hard shit all day? Or is that something that's taught by your parental units?
I think it has to do with who we are today compared to who we used to be. And if you think about our human behavior over, I don't even know, millions of years compared to what has happened in the last 100 years.
That's factually inaccurate. No,
it's tragically different, okay? We went from...
Why is it tragic? I think it's beautiful. We're in the best time to be alive.
I think it's tragic. I think that there's tragedy and beauty together in nature, the yin and the yang. I think that the tragic part is that now we're so out of tune and out of touch with our past selves, with our ancestors, with how the human species came to be. And I think over, millions of years, we've been developed in order to live the way that the struggles that we used to have. And the tragedy is we don't have understanding on that, and it causes depression. I think that Netflix and DoorDash and all of that as a whole is so dangerous, and it's nice, it's convenient, but why are we seeking convenience? Why are we always seeking convenience? Why are we always trying to be the one to park right in front of the store? Why can't we park at the back of the parking lot and walk a few extra steps?
Because it's hard. It sucks. My knee hurts.
I think that has to do with conditioning, because our instincts are ready to fight, are ready to be like, okay, let's walk 10 miles today, but we don't have to do any of that, right?
Do you think that it's a sense of entitlement because we were born into a very rich country? I mean, define rich, we're in tons of debt, but you know what I mean? A very feature-rich country, so that we're born into this. So we've kind of told ourselves that we're entitled to that. Like we're entitled to park close to the thing, or someone pulls out in front of me in their vehicle. Oh my God. Or, like all these little inconveniences that happen, right? Like, oh my God, I'm in the emergency room and they won't help me in 5 minutes. How dare they? Whereas 1,000 years ago, that emergency room, if you were born in a field, that's what I call this podcast. If you were born in a field. But if you were born in a field 1,000 years ago and someone just dropped a modern ER in the center, if it took 10 hours for them to get to you, they would be so grateful. So I think exactly what you're saying, it's like society and cultural norms that have gotten us used to a certain level of living that we're so comfortable and we can't reflect as a whole.
Yeah, and 100%. I think it is. I think it's a disconnect between society and our instincts. In summary, I think that's
because this kind of sparks a question that me and you were talking about yesterday, which was like, you went to Target and you said, "Oh my God, everyone there was very hard to deal with, and it was crazy." And we have this whole generation that is.
Oh, can we tell the Petco story? We went to Petco, and the day before? And literally back to back, two guys that worked there. One guy was trying to sell us some sort of membership.
The typical, like all the retailers now.
Yeah.
Like,
so
join
for
this
one,
club, and
he got like really close to me, like in my safe bubble, and I was very uncomfortable. And we were like, "Oh, we're not interested." And he literally didn't acknowledge us and walked away, like pissed. Like we pissed him off because we weren't interested.
He must have had a quota or something.
Then we get to the cashier. And the cashier's literally hustling us for gutter guards.
I heard him, the person in front of me, he's like, "I know it's a weird question, but now mind you, I'm buying some fucking dog biscuits.
We're buying a cat tree."
And he's like, "I know this is a weird question, but are you a homeowner?" I heard this whole conversation already. "Okay, well, yeah. Do you clean your gutters? Because I can get you a free gutter clean." I'm like, "This is weird.
What reality are we living in?"
I was like looking up and around, like, "Are we in Petco or did I go to Home Depot? What's happening? I haven't even been hustled that hard." Then we get up there, and of course, "Are you a homeowner?" I'm like, "Listen, I already heard your pitch. I don't got gutters, so you're shit out of luck here, buddy." But long story short, side story. I think that the sense of entitlement is what has gotten us to where we go after comfort, thinking that that's what's helpful, and then we have a whole society on antidepressant medication that's so angry, and then we blame it on the powers that be, right? Instead of ourselves. I think we have a society as a whole, generalizations annoy me, but I'm going to do it right now, that is so focused on how the rich are screwing them that they aren't worried about themselves, which is really the only thing they have control of. So if you were born into a situation where you felt like you had no control and you were
like if you were born in a field,
you have tons of control in a field. That's facts, dude. You have all the control in the field. In fact, you are the only one in control in a field. There's no one else. But if you were born in a big city and you thought that the world owed you all that stuff, that's a sad fucking life. So like I see I have
so much to say.
Write notes. This is what I do. See? If you were a young child, right, and you're born and your parents tell you you're great and you're awesome, which I think is really important, because if they don't, they're going to tell you the opposite, and that's equally shitty. And they tell you, the world owes you this and the world owes you that, and to seek comfort, and you go to college and you're going to get this awesome job and it won't be too hard, and nothing's going to be a struggle, and you're different than everyone else. You get set up for failure, and then they don't teach you anything, and they just give you everything until it's time for you to hit the road. You are fucked. We've seen it a billion times, right?
You either sink or swim.
So getting back to your statement of why or everything that's good is hard is counterintuitive to what we've taught a whole generation. And I think that inherently is the problem, our problem societally, generally, going forward in America, is that people don't realize that one statement is true and is so powerful. But that's why I was posing the question of why.
So, and I think that it really does come down to, in my opinion, us being so out of tune with how the human species operates behind the society that we live in. I think that we so heavily live in the society and we don't actually acknowledge who we are. We know probably more about how dogs operate than ourselves, you know?
What do you mean?
Like, we don't know how the human brain works. We don't know how, like, we listen to that voice because society told us to follow that voice and be comfortable and Netflix and chill and, you know, DoorDash and
do you think society
be
told
cozy,
us that?
be warm, you know?
Or do you think we learned it from... I'm just trying to think of, like, I like posing questions because I think they make, you know, the conversation more interesting. Do you think that there's no one...
I think that it all stemmed from our instincts because we all, you know, are always searching for safety. That's our instincts, is to be safe, right? And then we became safe, and then now we're really safe, and now we're a little too safe.
We're very safe people.
And now
it's
we
funny
don't,
how
but
people are
our
so afraid
brains
right now.
are ready to... are still looking, and that's where I think depression a lot of the times, I mean, there's all sorts of things that cause that, but it's we're not utilizing our abilities, you know, we're not utilizing our abilities. And for example, like I think that for many millions of years, whatever, let's
go thousands,
millions, thousands, trillions, we were living with such an intense purpose of survival, right? Our purpose was to procreate and survive, right? And now we don't need to. Now we're like,
of those, really.
We don't, because now it's like, well, you don't have to have kids, you know? It's like a new trend, including us. We're like, ugh, no kids, but dogs, you know? And so it's like, that's not our top priority. And neither is, like, you know, quote unquote, surviving, like, out in the wild. We're not worried about, you know, for the most part. There's definitely some weirdos out on the river trail, but and now we're not living with purpose in that way. And so if we don't find that purpose to live within, then we've lost our way. And then on top of that, you talked about medicine and how there's actually other societies that prescribe exercise and diet as the cure over medication.
Well, they say it's 70% more effective
because
than
they've discovered
SSRIs
that our
and things
bodies respond in that way. Our bodies, our brains, because of all the millions, whatever, thousands of years, our bodies now work in this way where exercise is a huge benefit. Like, our bodies love to be exercised. They love it. And they love nutrition, you know?
To me, so here's my... well, your idea is shitty thought to you. I think everyone knows that. I don't think there's one human who doesn't know that if they eat better and exercise, they feel better. Right?
I think that there are people, especially the younger
speaking for
generation,
myself.
that
I know
actually don't know that because they haven't really been put in a situation where they needed to exercise.
You might be right. I mean, it's so hard to speak for a whole fucking class of people. Everyone's got individual problems, and we are trying to generalize something. But I think going back to your whole thing of, like, everything that's good is hard, I 100% agree. I think it is something to do with, like, a chemical. I've read the God, I can't remember the damn name of the
Dopamine.
book. Yeah. It's called No, it's not The Power of Now. That's a different book. Also read that one.
It actually is very similar to that title.
I know.
It's something one.
The Molecule of More.
Yeah, okay.
And they talk about how you're looking, the quick, easy, big payoffs. Like, you got to, I think if you really think about it, if you have a woman who is, or a man who is extremely well off, rich, right? As we would call it, wealthy, whatever you're talking about, money wise. And they put their eyes on a vehicle they want, right? Let's say they want it for a day, and they're like, you know what? I want a McLaren. Tomorrow they go buy it. How big do you think the payoff is? Probably not very big, right? I mean, it's probably not. To me and you, it might be, but the reason it is for me and you is we would think about it for years and years and years and years. And that's actually where a lot of the satisfaction comes from. And that's why you always hear the fun is in the journey. Be happy on the journey. Because, God, I keep lifting my shoulders really heavy.
I know, I'm slouching.
Because the satisfaction is not innately in the getting. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the wanting and or working for it that is where the satisfaction comes. But our brain tricks us into always thinking the grass is greener because it's always trying to look for what's to come for probably instinctual reasons. I also don't know the answer to that.
I was looking up how long humans have lived on the earth. 300,000 years.
That's a controversial subject, though.
That's true, right? So could be millions.
What you believe. For sure. I really don't care. I mean, for this conversation,
Google
millions
says,
works great. It's just you're looking at things over time, trends over time.
We're students of life. We're not scientists.
I think in order to have this conversation, you have to define what happiness is and what fulfillment is, and that's fucking difficult. You ever tried to do that? What is fulfillment? What is that? Is it just a series of chemical reactions in our brain that makes us feel something? Yeah, I can get real dark if you want. I've thought very deeply about all of this stuff. I think about it daily. What is fulfillment? Do we ultimately feel that on our deathbed when we're about to die and nothing else matters? Because that's ultimately presence, right?
What did I tell you the other day? This is like, I feel like
you told me I was stupid.
I feel like you can look at that and be like, oh, that's doom and gloom. Or you can look at it and say, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Because life is literally like, what's the proper
life's
saying?
A bitch and then you die.
There's that. Or,
Mac Dre, R.I.P.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I don't think that's the one.
I mean, honestly, we all create our own realities, and we can give meaning to the smallest things, the biggest things, or we can say nothing, there's no meaning to anything on life, and I'm just here to eat shit and die.
Man's search for meaning is one as old as man.
Yeah.
Truly. If you look at history and books, it's the oldest. It's probably one of the first conceptual thoughts we had. Why am I here? That is and we will never know, which is the ultimate.
But I disagree
fulfillment.
because I think that we can know if we really tap in and we define that meaning. It doesn't have to be this, non-human force that defines meaning. It's the meaning that we give it. Whoa. And I was telling you the other day, and this is all I've learned over the years from some spiritual stuff that I've read, but it's I truly believe that, or this is how I see it, right? Because I used to live day to day and be and I didn't have any sort of spiritual guidance or, it was just atheist. I'm just here to.
You're just a bunch of chemicals. You're here. You don't understand that everything has
life
connected.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm here to just live and to die. Okay. And then just do something in the middle, But I have shifted that. And now I truly believe that my consciousness, we all have consciousness within us, a speck of dust in the infinite black universe right?
When you say
My consciousness was a little speck.
define that.
It was a little speck.
Define like seriously.
It's a speck. That's all it is. It's literally just
there's a
living
fucking
in a
speck,
speck.
so I can do surgery and pull the speck out. Like what you define this shit? I'm confused.
It's a light. It's a light.
That doesn't make it. Literally, I'm not trying to like be rude to you.
The
It doesn't
thing
make
is
sense.
that it's not really like it's not really for the human language to understand or the human mind to understand. It's a feeling. It's almost just a feeling.
So you're talking about like your inner self?
Yeah, it's like who is it behind your eyes that's there?
It's experiencing
That's
all this?
experiencing it, behind all the human thoughts and all the human worries and the human judgments and the human insecurities
All
and
the
fears.
things that people have told you to
What is it?
believe or not believe.
Have you ever had that experience? And I have it all the time as an adult, but I think it happens to us more as children where you're just like, who am I? Like, whoa,
You're
what is
like,
this? What
what's
is
the
this?
Truman Show or something?
Yeah, like what's
That's all made up.
what's guiding me to like lift
thinking.
my arm and like I don't know, wake up
Tripping
and
right now.
and like there's something in me that's guiding me and that's there. There's just something that's there behind the eyeballs,
You don't
behind the
think that's
human
just
body.
like neurons in your brain?
No, there is no scientific explanation of consciousness, of human or like our
I mean, I can make you unconscious.
So and then
That's what gets confusing.
Then
I only ask these
we
questions.
then we go
'cause
back to spec.
I could put you in a field. This is a dark episode all of a sudden.
Were these specks, right, of light?
No, I want you to define that because I don't understand what you're saying. Specks of light. What the fuck is that?
And then we get this opportunity, like, to jump into a human body and experience the human life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the depression, the low lows, the high highs. That's a gift. Say what you want. I mean, some
Where's
people.
the speck go when we die? What's a speck? What happens when we get cremated? Does the speck fucking go out? Is it part of the flame?
It's
I
energy.
don't-
It's energy. That's what it is. It is energy. I think we should scratch this whole conversation and throw it in the trash.
I like it. I actually think it's really important. You're getting frustrated, but I'm just
I'm not
literally-
frustrated. No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's just deep, and I think that we're gonna end up freaking people out. But that's fine. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Per my
So I
last
think-
email.
I think it's interesting too, like when we talk about all these things, and now I'm just gonna piss people off, so maybe we should. But I think it's interesting, like when the way you grow up is so inherent to what you believe, and like these beliefs. Like if you look at whole groups of society, you have Muslims and Christians and like Buddhists, and like there's all these different like collective thoughts that people have that just. It's so hard for me to understand that.
But behind all of them, there's always the
These truths.
same
yeah,
truths.
I know. They're all
And
just
it all
driven
goes
in a
back to
different way.
spec.
Fuck.
We are all just specks of light, aka energy.
It all just goes back to spec. Okay, that's fair. Well, I've told you about this story, and now we're going to even go deeper. You all ready to go deep? So, if you've listened to our other podcasts, you realize that I may or may not have a pretty big health condition. I'm laughing, but tumor humor. But so there was a time where I was considerably getting headaches, and I just kept getting them so bad, and I didn't know why. And then there was a point where they were getting really bad. Like I literally felt like there was a fucking vice on my head, and I had gone to a coaching conference because we were trying to not suck at life and go out of business. And
Which was our episode that we're archiving.
Yeah.
That was what that was about.
yeah,
The doom and gloom of
Got real
owning a
dark.
business.
but I remember there was a moment, and again, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, but I was in the shower, and what I would do is I would turn the water on really hot, and I would just like go on my hands and knees like forward, like almost like in a ball shape, and like have my head
Fetal.
in my hands. What's that called?
Fetal.
Fetal position. There you go. And I was just like, if there's a higher power, this is going to go away at some point. I was just like, I don't know if it's fucking Jesus, God, Buddha,
Spec.
spec. I don't know. But if there is, and I realize this is totally like objective. It's just totally like, could be coincidental or anything else. But in life, you do have to, just like a science experiment, you do a science experiment when something happens in front of you, you have to somewhat, a job as a scientist to always be skeptical, but there's at a point you have to believe it. I mean, we make medications on repeatable things, right? And then I just because at that point I thought there's no way this isn't really bad because this fucking hurts and it won't go away. You know what I mean? And they had told me I had like TMJ and all this crap. And I'm like, there's just no way. This pain is just radiating my head. Like, your brain's a horrible place. And I just remember,
beautiful.
Yes, it can be beautiful and horrible. But for me, it's mostly horrible, but we'll talk about that in the therapy episode. So, long story short, I told myself that if this doesn't kill me, there's got to be a higher power because I'm pretty sure I've got something real bad here. And, not 6 months later, I get diagnosed and I'm not dead yet. So, the thing I struggle with is there's plenty of people who have had that same thought and then died. So, am I a believer in a higher power? Yes, I am, because I know things happen for reasons, and I don't know if it's because I don't believe that there's a higher power, like looking at each individual thing and there be a reason, but I believe that there's some bigger, deeper meaning to life.
That our human brains can't
spec,
compute.
Dude.
Only Spec understands. And
Spec.
and to that point, because I've thought a lot about this.
It's a continuous thought.
Some people don't get the gift of living anymore, but who's to say that is the actual gift? I think that, so this book actually
also,
that I've read,
also a very good point.
I think that the human, in my opinion, from my own personal experience, oh my God, I lost my train
ultimately
of
that's
thought.
all we are, is a bunch of experiences, right?
Yeah. So I think that
from your own personal experience.
yes. So I have two things that I want to say. So for one, I wanted to talk about what I read in Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. He tells this story about the shaman, and just to sum it up, he says that the shaman discovers that the human existence and life itself is just the divine becoming aware of itself. And I truly believe that. And that is, I think, really hard for some people to understand.
Spec
Becoming aware of itself, and in every single human, right? And it's not like you're the chosen one and no one else is, so everyone can die, but you can't. It's like,
but it's realizing the gifts that you are
giving. It's a whole ecosystem of consciousness, and in nature, some tragedy happens, and we lose a lot of great people. But their consciousness, while they were here on this planet, made a huge impact, whether you can see it or not. And I think it's really important to find that meaning if you've lost somebody. Like if you've lost somebody that was really close to you, and you weren't, no one's ready, right? But I think that finding that meaning, otherwise life gets really hard, But I truly do believe that. I think it is Spec becoming aware of itself, and it's not just me being the main character, or, it's a whole ecosystem of consciousness.
Yeah, I think we should probably end it there, man. My brain's a little fried at this point.
We're gonna lose some followers, but
long
it's
story
cool.
short, do hard shit. And look at hold on. Look at anyone that has what you want and copy them. And I'll guarantee you anyone who has what you want ultimately is doing hard shit. So if you're feeling upset, you're feeling bad, you're feeling depressed, anxiety, you want to do all these things, do the hard shit, whatever that looks like for you. Some things that are hard for you might not be hard for me, and vice versa, you know?
And
put yourself in a struggle once a week at least, or you will be an unhappy human.
And and there's so much that goes into that, like developing the tools to be able to build up your tolerance to do that, but always listen to that voice that's guiding you and not trying to keep you comfortable, but the voice that wants to test you and grow you. It might be really quiet right now and you might not even hear it, but it's in there. And it's funny because this actual episode was supposed to be something totally different. Our first take was very different, but you know, nothing amazing in life comes easy. And like, what are you willing to sacrifice? I wanted to talk specifically about owning a business and if that is the right path for you, if you've been thinking about taking that path, and kind of like going down that rabbit hole of like, you know, it might seem amazing on the outside, which it is, but there's a lot of hardship that happens behind the scenes.
Don't be fooled by your own brain, the internet and marketing and
yeah.
And
I was going to say, like, for example, we're like embarking upon this major growth journey. We're about to level up within like our company, and more to come on that later, but lots of stuff happening right now. And with that said, you know, the more growth, the more pain, but it all turns to beauty. You know, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, or like, you know, all the new, after like there's a fire, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to butcher that. But I was going to say, like, you know, no one sees the stuff that we go through behind the scenes. You know, we only post highlights on social media, but it's like, I straight up had like a crisis of like, you know, how like postpartum depression happens where like, you know, sometimes like women that have babies go through this period of time where they almost reject it. Well, like I went through that with the business because I'm like, oh, we're leveling up. We're about to have another business baby. And like, I just went into this full like business baby blues rejection mode, which was temporary, but it happened, right? Like there's no such thing as this like perfect, easy journey. There's going to be those challenging times where you do question things, but you always come back down to your vision and you're like, what's driving you? And it's normally spec. So ask spec what's driving you.
get born in a field, ask spec what's up, and don't own a business because you'll hate your life.
Because you'll get business blues.
I'll just sum up that last hour.
Yeah.
3 statements. On that note.
Should we trash it?
This is trashed. Bye-bye. Like, subscribe, comment, because you're cool.
Do you get...
And I'll love you forever. Do I get like, subscribes, and comments? No, I don't.
Put in the comments. Do you understand spec?
What is spec?
Tell me what spec is in the comments.
And tell me what you would be like if you were born in a fucking field.
What would you do?
Also, I don't know.
Goodbye.
Think harder.